So I've been using the Canon 30V for a little while now, and I noticed that there is a growing trend where people are using these late era film cameras as their point and shoot camera of choice. These cameras are still relatively affordable. There's a lot of them and they come in various different forms and lens mounts, and they check many of the same boxes that point and shoot cameras do. And with that said, I must admit that I am quite skeptical about using premium point and shoot cameras. You know, the likes of the Contax T2, the Olympus Mu 2 or MJU, whatever it's called. These cameras are, I'm sure they're great, but they just don't represent a very good value proposition to me. Especially considering that most of them, if you drop them or they break in some way, you know, good luck getting them repaired. But I felt it would be kind of unfair of me to judge without actually using a premium point and shoot camera. So I borrowed a Contax T2 off a good friend of mine, and I pitted it side by side against a Canon 30V. But for that, I would need some help.
I'll begin. Welcome back to Grainy Brews. You may be wondering, where's Matt? Well, I am Matt today, and you better get used to it.
First up, the Contax T2, a luxury item to many, coveted as by most. It's very well built and, surprise surprise, it produces really good images. I shot the camera mostly in auto for the duration of my period of use, and I only missed a couple of shots in terms of autofocus. The auto exposure modes worked really well, and the flash provides a nice bit of punch whenever it is required. Comparatively, the Canon 30V produces a flatter overall look, which I must say I prefer overall, because you can play around with it more and correct things in post, because, you know, I'm a control freak like that. Of the shots that I got back from the shoot that I did with Hashem, I certainly preferred the Canon shots more than the Contax shots. Mostly because of the way that it rendered skin tones. I just found that the Contax was a bit too contrasty, and it was a little bit more difficult to get the look that I wanted. Another feature in the Canon's favor is the Viewfinder. It's an SLR viewfinder, so you can't really go wrong. It provides all the information that I think is necessary to shoot, and it's very clear, and yeah, it's an SLR viewfinder. The T2, on the other hand, it was a little bit trickier to compose with because that viewfinder is just not quite as big. This is a common thing with compact cameras. You're going to have a tinier viewfinder as a trade-off to pocketability and size. It is what it is. The T2 feels like a toy in the best sense of the word. It is so much fun to use, but that fun is overshadowed by this nagging feeling that anything on it could break at any moment. Given that the camera is not very cheap to replace, this is certainly a consideration for why you should baby it more than you would a cheaper point-and-shoot camera. But hey, at least the Contax T2 can fit inside a pocket. Meanwhile, the Canon 30V is not pocketable. It's pretty rugged because it's a DSLR. And you can get around this form factor by putting on a pancake lens, though it's still not going to make the camera pocketable. It's best taken with a tote bag or like a camera bag if you're going to be out for a long time. It's also not going to win style points either. This is a DSLR looking camera through and through. You can't really get around that. And if that's your thing, perfect, love that for you. But I think most people would have to admit that T2 does look much sexier. The point-and-shoot camera is best used alongside an activity which facilitates fun. And what I mean by that is You are using the point and shoot camera primarily as a way of capturing memories, either like a party, a wedding, a hike, that kind of thing. And that's why the automation of a point and shoot camera is its strongest asset. You could give a point and shoot camera to anyone at a party, like the T2, and they would just know how to use it. It's pretty intuitive to use. If you give the Canon 30V to someone at a party, they're probably going to look at you like, hang on, this is a pro camera, like, what are you doing? If you want something to go alongside your activities that doesn't get in the way of the activity itself, the point and shoot, the actual point and shoot camera, is your best friend in this scenario. The Canon 30V can absolutely do everything the T2 does, but it also invites a more in-depth photographic experience if you want it. The Canon 30V can be versatile in more ways than just auto mode. I will let you decide if that is important to you. All of this to say, if you are invited to a party and you're going to bring along a camera, I would say you're leaning towards the T2 in this scenario. Not that I would know, because I don't get invited to parties. But what if you wanted to go on a hike through Kosciuszko National Park in weather? did not bring the T2 with me on this trip. The 30V is not waterproof by any means, but it is a Canon SLR, so it's going to take a few bumps. and I could have taken it out and it could have gotten wet a little bit and it would have been fine. And given that the lighting conditions were a bit inconsistent, I had the manual mode there ready to go in case I needed it, which is helpful. So, which one of these cameras is the better camera? If you are looking for a camera that's going to deliver the best experience, no question, it's the Contax T2. At this point in the film photography revival era, the Contax T2 is kind of this mythical unicorn camera for a lot of people. If you want to use a camera for the sake of using a camera, there's not much better than the Contax T2 in terms of delivering fun per shot. But on a practical results-based level, the Canon is the one to go with. If you wanted to get flashes, if you wanted to get a battery grip, if you wanted to get different lenses, the options are there and you can build a system around it. You can keep it simple and just keep 1 or 2 lenses. It's up to you. And you know, it's not a T2, it's not as fancy, it doesn't feel quite as nice, but it's still fine. Like it's a fun camera to use in some circumstances, and the results that I got from it were very gratifying. At this point, I would say I feel I gravitate more towards the results-based work that I'm producing now than feeling nice things when I press the shutter on a camera. There is room for that in my life, of course. I can't deny I get swept up in the gear like everyone else, but there comes a time where you have to, you sit down and look at your work and you realize, okay, there's more to it than just owning really expensive shit. You want to get the results that you want, and sometimes you just got to use the right cameras for that. And for me, that's the Canon 30V. Just be intentional with your photography. If you like the experience of shooting, but you're not as fussed about the images, that's fine. That is perfectly valid. And if you're just all about getting those cracking images and cameras are just these utilitarian tools for you to use, that is also valid. Just go and use cameras and make shit. That's really what it's all about.